And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
Start. That means we've got.
And welcome into Juckonbucks on a game week Thursday. Guys, I'm sorry I did not go live this morning, feeling a whole lot under the weather, but we're going to get through a show today because I've got things to preview here. We've got a game day. Listen, I can't believe games have started already. I'm still pinching myself every morning that we're actually talking about football. Unfortunately for us, or maybe fortunately, depending on how you look at it, maybe it's good for the team. I don't particularly think so, but we are rolling straight into a bye week after the Western Michigan game this Saturday. And I hate that. It's the first of 2 bye weeks that we're going to have this year. That is not something new to college football. Everybody has 2 bye weeks this year and next year, just based on the way the calendar falls. You've got usually 13 Saturdays between the periods of the first week before Labor Day and the last Saturday in November. And in 2024 and 2025, there just are 14 Saturdays in that time period, kind of like a month where you might get 1 extra payday, which everybody loves those, unless you're cutting the checks, and then it's a real gut punch. We've all been there, but 2 byes this week, the first one after Western Michigan, and let's hope that the slate of games around the country is a little bit better than it is this week, and we'll go over that slate. Yesterday, I went live with my buddy Chris Drew. I want to thank him for joining me. We had an awesome time, and I think that is a really quality episode. If you like Chris and what he does, or if you like my show and you haven't seen that one, I would highly recommend going back and watching that. We hit on a wide variety of different stuff, and I think that he and I have some really good chemistry and some good conversations. So if you haven't seen that one, check that one out. The title on the thumbnail, the picture has me and him, so you can see right away which one it is. But today, we're going to talk about the biggest games on the slate this week, and of course, preview the Buckeyes and the Broncos. Western Michigan played Wisconsin last Saturday, and they played them pretty tough. Final score was 28-14 Badgers. Wisconsin, I don't know that they played so hot, but I also think that this Western Michigan team is maybe a bit better than I originally gave them credit for after kind of watching some snippets of this game yesterday. They put up 140 yards rushing on Wisconsin, 120 yards passing. The quarterback was 12 for 18. Western rushed for 4 yards a carry, total of just 52 plays. Wisconsin, on the other hand, killed them in time of possession, rushed for 190, passed for 190, and they ran a total of 84 plays, which is stunning. The Buckeyes, for comparison, ran just 64 plays against Akron. Wisconsin, 4.3 yards per carry, and that's not very good against a MAC team, but Western being able to hold them to 4.3 yards a carry, pretty impressive. Again, for comparison, the Buckeyes running backs against Akron, Trey Henderson ran for 8.1 yards a carry. Quinshawn just 4.3. James Peoples 6 yards a carry. And Quinshawn did not have a great game for his standards, that's for sure. And I got a feeling that he, just the way he is, man, he's chomping at the bit to absolutely come out and put it down this week, and I think he will. But we've been told that this is a step up in competition from Akron to Western Michigan by pretty much everybody. I think so too. Heading into game 1, I had a list of questions that I was hoping to get answered from these Buckeyes. Some of them, I think we got some solid answers. Some of them not so much. And some, I think we got to get some follow-up questions, at least for me personally. So I've written out my questions for this game heading into Western Michigan. And the first one has to be a repeat from the first one last week. And that is, can the offense come out to a good start? We struggled game 1 getting off to a good start. And there are, reasonable reasons why that was. But this was a consistent issue last year. And when you have an issue that is repeating year over year, you want to nip it in the bud. And it starts up front with the offensive line, with the tight ends. Wisconsin rushed for 200 yards against this Western Michigan team. I refuse to believe that Wisconsin can do that, and we can't. So you got the first game jitters out of the way now. Austin Cyril got his first start out of the way now. Should he have to start again for Donovan Jackson? Or if you have Donovan back, really no excuse. Tegger got his first start out of the way. Seth McLaughlin as well. Quinshawn, Will Howard, and he was great. So everybody's got the first game jitters out of the way. You've worked all week to clean up the mistakes that happened at Akron early on. You're the number 2 team in the country. You're playing a MAC school. Can you come out and bully them right off the rip and kill their will? There is no viable excuse not to. Not week 2. No mental mistakes. Take it to them. Look inspired doing it. Ryan Day does not want to be singing that same tune at halftime that he's had to sing too many times. And this is up to the leadership on the team. This is almost like what does Ryan Day do at this time? At this point, what do these guys do? Like, you have got to have some pride to know that you can't make these mistakes. You've got to come out and take it to these guys. Have a little Buckeye pride, and I can't wait. I really do believe that these guys are going to come out and correct this issue from last week. This issue that we've seen for now a year of starting off games with miscues, shooting yourself in the foot. This is the week it all comes together, and it's going to be the start of a trend where this team now is going to start hot, and we're going to laugh. We're going to look back and laugh at how bad they used to start games halfway through this season. That's my prediction, or my hope, one or the other. We'll see. Question number 2, the run-pass ratio, and I guess the number of plays as well. Ryan Day said Chip is trying to establish the run. We know that, and he said it means, if you don't score 70, you don't score 70. Ryan Day seemed a little sad when he was saying that. Not about trying to establish the run, but if you don't score 70, you don't score 70. I want them to establish the run badly. You've got all the pieces to do it. Game 1, you went 33 runs, 31 passes. And that particular ratio is no different than Ryan Day's offense has been the entire time he's been here, except for 1 year. And that 1 year was 2019, where the Buckeyes ran the ball 64% of the time. So a huge outlier. And I thought and still think that this offense, this 2024 offense, will look more like 2019 as far as that run pass ratio than it looked compared to the rest of his offenses. Now, I'm also very curious about plays per game. 64 plays per game is where we were last week. And I was hoping that it would not dip from the huddling and the communications from where it was last year. So it was 64 last year. The reason I'm concerned about and thinking about it is we've gone from, let's just take that 2019. We'll go back to 2018. I believe it was like 78 plays a game. Now, 78 offensive plays a game, and just dropped every single year down to the 64 we had last year. That's a whole lot of missed opportunities. We're talking 14 plays. Now, the rule change with the first downs and the clock not stopping wiped off 4 of those on its own. So let's say from 2018, we'll just call it 74. There's the rule change. So you drop 10 plays, and the huddling and the comms, I was concerned might drop a little more. Now, Chip Kelly, even with being able to run the ball a lot more at UCLA and effectively able to have more plays, run more plays at UCLA. I believe he was up over 68 last year. But the point is, it's good news that they didn't drop. And I think that we might be able to see a couple more plays per game once they get it rolling. More plays per game, more opportunity to score. I like that. Let's do that. Number 3, got to be linebacker for me. How are they going to run these linebackers? One of the biggest storylines coming out of that game was Arvell Reese. Talk of the town, right? Excellent first performance playing linebacker. CJ Hicks, again, a big topic of conversation, an underwhelming performance. And this presents a big question here. How's James going to handle this? Because he said, and he has stuck to the fact that the guys who are making plays are the guys who are going to play. If Cody is out again, do we see Arvell Reese start at Mike and Sonny at will? They had a press conference last night. talked to Sonny about him being able just a week out to move over to Mike. What a kid. Ryan Day had a lot of great things to say about him. We'll go over the quotes later on, but we had Ryan Day. We actually had 11 guys talk yesterday at a little lightning round press conference. But yes, Sonny can do it. He can move over to Mike, and you can bring CJ up to Will if Cody's out, or you can start Arvell in place of Cody and leave Sonny at Will where he belongs. I guess the question would be, is Arvell ready for that green dot? I don't know. But part of me thinks that this is the way they're going to do this. Arvell at Mike, Sonny at Will. And if that's the case, it bodes really well for Arvell, because that means they really trust him, or he's building that trust and he's doing what he's supposed to do in practice. If Cody comes back and Cody plays at Mike, as he always does, and Sonny plays at Will, there's your starting guys. In that scenario, how much do we see Arvell and CJ come in? Because we don't really know yet, because Cody's been out, how James plans on using this rotation. I mean, we know what we saw game one, but Cody was out. How does he plan on doing it when he's in? He's always said, if I got 4, I'm going to play 4. If I got 6, I'm going to play 6. And what he means is if 6 are ready, 6 are playing in my rotation. But how much? I think he believes that Arvell's definitely ready. How much does he play? Ryan Day said he's earned more time. I'm incredibly excited about Arvell. I think a lot of us are. This is a stud out there, and the more reps he can get now early in the season, the more he can be an absolute force later on in the season. And I think he's the type of player that can be a force, as can CJ. And damn well Jim Knowles has the ability to put him in advantageous positions to make plays. So we'll see what happens there. I'm sure they're working on it, but going to be interesting to watch how that develops this week and what the changes are from week 1. Question number 4, Jelani Thurman, guys. Look, Ryan Day said that the tight ends, 2 of them graded out as a champion. I don't know if Jelani is one of those champions. I didn't see that he played obviously different on the all 22 or the coaches tape from Will. They all had some good plays. They all had some kind of crappy plays. And I don't know who graded out the champion, but it's interesting that Jelani Thurman got as many opportunities as the 2 of them. We're talking 1 snap deviation between the 3 of them, 20, 19, and 18. So that's interesting. Ryan Day had called Jelani Thurman out publicly in the weeks leading up to the season. And I thought at the time that he was trying to motivate Jelani. If you caught those comments, you probably thought the same thing. He was basically saying he needed to focus, and just something he doesn't usually. The tone of it just sounded like a call out, like, hey, I want you to hear this, and I want you to know I'm talking about you and what you need to do publicly. And Jelani played pretty good. None of them played really good, but Jelani did pretty good. So the point is, I don't think these older guys are going to make it impossible for Ryan Day to take them off the field because they're doing everything right. What I'm saying is, a lot of times you've got a veteran player who's a starter, and you've got a younger player who's a much better player. And the veteran player doesn't have anywhere near the upside, but he does everything right. You can trust him to do everything right, so that younger player gets held down. In the scenario of these tight ends here, if you're talking about Jelani, the guys in front of him, they're not doing everything right. So if they're not doing everything right and they're all kind of playing the same, then you go with the dude who has the most upside. That's Jelani. And I think we're going to see more and more Jelani as we move on. We'll see what we got this Saturday, but I'm very excited to see how this goes, because I do believe that is the way we're leaning here. And honestly, I think it's the best route. I've always thought it was the best route because I don't trust in G. Scott's ability to do a lot of things out there that a tight end needs to do. Will Kazmarek, I thought, might be a good alternative, but Will Kazmarek, seeing him out there against real live competition, it wasn't where it needed to be. And I don't know if he's going to be the type of guy that can improve upon that. He just looks a bit slow, looks a bit Mackey, to be honest. I like the guy a lot. But Jelani Thurman, he needs to go earn this. He needs to go earn this. Question number 5. Does the passing game run through JJ? Do we see those targets early and often again? When I talked to Chris yesterday, he brought up an interesting thought. He said that he thought the Buckeyes might have intentionally gotten JJ involved early in that game to get everybody excited. And I agree. I think that that's definitely, there is validity to that. Not only is it a good move, but I do think that is probably, in the thought process, you want to get this guy out there and get him involved, get the season started off right. You got to, the fans amped up. Let's do it. And I also think that they intend on making him the focal point of the passing game. I really do. And I think that it's the best way to go about this with the pieces you got. Now, if they go into this game against Western and we see them target him early and often, how does Western go about defending him? And will we see potentially in JJ's second game of his college career a defense alter what they normally would have done to try to take away JJ? We know it's coming at some point, and we know when it does, Carnell, Emeka, BI, they're absolutely going to love it. They're going to go off. But how early in JJ's career are we going to see him absolutely alter a defensive coordinator's plan? I don't think it'll be long. Could we see it at Western? Maybe not. But if we don't, I expect another huge game out of JJ, maybe bigger than the first, because it seems clear that Will has a really nice rapport for him, with him, likes going to him. 5A, let's go with Brandon Innis. Brandon Innis, 17 snaps last week. Based on what he's been doing on specials, I look for him to be rewarded with more snaps. Additionally, what Ryan Day had to say in his press conference last night, which we'll go over in a little bit, but he was asked about BI and said some great things about him. And I listened to BI last night as well. He had a press conference. My gosh, man, you want to talk about a kid that just gets it. Leadership council kid. After being there for 1 year, everybody wanted him on the leadership council. He's always smiling, but he's a bad dude, but he's smiling and he's happy. These guys love him. So great kid, man. But that was a big win on the recruiting trail. Question number 6, should they get off to a hot start? When do we see Devin Brown territory? Do we eventually see Julian saying, listen, we got a quarterback in Will Howard who takes off and runs the ball? Devin Brown is a guy that we have seen at the very most have 4 drives. That's the most he's ever played. 4 drives in the Missouri game. And doesn't it seem like we have seen much more of Devin Brown? It seemed like it to me. But because we've talked so much about him, the whole thing with McCord, him supposedly, being in a battle last year with McCord and playing in games 1, 2, and 3. The most we've seen him play in a row is he got pulled on his 4th drive at Missouri. And to be honest, he was starting to settle in on that 4th drive, I thought, maybe drive 3. But I just feel like he is the type of guy that every time we see him, he looks absolutely frantic. And he needs some time to be able to settle in. And I would love for him to have his last time out there. I want him to have a good experience. I want him to have a good performance and have some confidence. Should they need him, the last time out there, he went out and put on a good show, or at least one time this year, he went out and put on a good show. Or I want them to move on from him and try to get that from somebody else, from Lincoln or from Julian. But I think there's going to be a point in the season where you're going to need to rely for some period of time on QB2. And Devin's played a total of 7 games now. He's only attempted 25 passes in 7 games. 25 passes. That's all we've seen out of this dude. And it just kind of blows my mind. We've talked about this guy. Like, he's been in part of the conversation. been 50% of the quarterback competition for 2 consecutive years. He's only had 25 reps, 13 for 25, 203 yards, obviously not good enough. And even in his start in the Cotton Bowl, just 6 pass attempts. We got to see more out of this dude, or they need to move the hell on. Like that's my theory here. He has got to get in and get some serious reps. And if they don't like it, or if they don't feel confident, then they need to start repping Julian or Lincoln, whoever the hell they decide. I'm not going to just sit here and call for Julian. I'm not seeing behind the scenes, but I can say this. Based on Ryan Day talking, you absolutely cannot discount that is Julian's the guy. He wants to be that guy. Like he would love for Julian to be developed enough to the point where he is the backup quarterback. The way he talks about him is like, it's just different, man. He knows what he's got. He knows the skill set, and he can't wait to work with him. Is that going to be this year? I don't know. I would certainly love if they could get Devin Brown in, and let's see, I don't know, maybe the second series of the third quarter, if they were up big enough, and just let him rip. Keep the offense rolling. Let Devin rip. Either have a positive or a negative experience and move on from there. Maybe it's an audition for I just can't see this guy being around here next year unless he comes in and does something really good for this team. And by the way, I heard there is a package being installed from a little birdie using Lincoln Keenholz as the tight end and a goal line package, utilizing Lincoln's crazy vertical jump, which is a 40-inch vert in some kind of package here. And I'm thinking that would be awesome to see, but at the same time, Lincoln is 6'2.5", 6'3". Jelani's 6'6" with crazy long arms. Even if Jelani's vertical is 30 inches to Lincoln's 40, is he really getting his hands up that much higher in the air based on that? Based on the height difference and the arm length difference? I don't know. You guys tell me. Anyway, I want to show you a couple videos here, and these are from the Menace to Sports Coaches Film Room, and I've got a reason to show you these videos. But number one, I just want to say it is amazing to watch the game in all 22 and listen to a college football coach break it down. It's interesting as hell. Now, you may see things in a little bit of a different light than you saw watching the game the first time through. You might have thought this guy made a play work, but it was actually an unsung hero that made a play work. Or you might have thought that guy screwed up, but really he was doing what he was supposed to, and it was this guy that screwed up. It just gives you a broader understanding of things. And even if you know a ton about football, you can't see the all 22. You can't see everybody on the screen. So it's really great to check the coverage stuff and see who's doing what back there, who's playing well. If you love football and you really want to speak on it with a strong opinion, I think you absolutely have to watch this. It's almost just a must at this point. So let me show you a couple of videos right now.
The Rushmen package almost got home. Look at Kenyatta Jackson, man. He's so good. Watch Kenyatta Jackson down here in a pass rush. The burst off the ball, the hands. If it wasn't quick game, he was getting home. So the Rushmen package, here it is. Jack Sawyer, Caden Curry, Mitchell Melton, Kenyatta Jackson. They took JTT off the field. He could have been tired, or maybe he's not in the package. I think that's going to be dynamic. I called for it all year last year, and now here we are. I love it. We got personnel group. They're just going to run 2 Tampa, right? But we got Jordan Hancock and Lorenzo Styles in. So they brought it. Now we have 6 DBs in the game. There's a dime defense with 3 down linemen. And they get home. Let's watch the blitz and how it happened. Another sack for the sackless D. So they're walking up Caleb Downs, Sonny Style, and Arvell Reese. They're going to bring Caleb Downs, but he's reading it, right? He's letting the D lineman work trying to find a crease. The good news is, because the center gets beat so bad by Tyleek, the running back has to help, which frees up Caleb Downs to get the sack. JTT also involved. Look at that bull rush, the long arm. That's a great job. This is a disruptive defense. This is what I talked about all year last year. They were a great defense, but not disruptive. I know it's Akron, but this is a disruptive defense.
Now, we know Jim Knowles said that he wants to be more aggressive this year. He wants to get more turnovers. He's created a point system for the guys for turnovers. And Tyleek said last night in his interview, in his little lightning round, which, by the way, man, he is funny. But they do turnover drills all the time. And turnovers can sometimes be luck, but you increase the odds and put yourself in a better situation when you're calling a disruptive defense. And Jim Knowles is. And this is different than last year. So this is a really, really interesting thing to see here. We had CJ Hicks on several blitzes. We had Lathan. We had Caleb Downs, the Rushmen package. This is scary stuff. And everybody out there has got to prepare for this now. So Jim Knowles said that he is not going to be playing the jack this year. I believe him. He said he'd rather go with an extra defensive lineman. And while CJ would be perfect in that position, could you mix it in? Yeah, you could. But he's not going to peel one of the strengths of the team, which are the plethora of pass rushers on the defensive line, and pull them off the field to run that position. They're just not going to be playing that jack. So I think CJ Hicks is, kind of the odd man out until he figures out how he wants to deploy him. But I don't think that he's going to be that third linebacker like we all thought he was going to be. I do think Arvell Reese is going to, before we get into, Big Ten play, he's going to be that guy who is the next in after Cody and Sonny. So which group do you consider the better group? The defensive line or BIA? I think it's a really difficult question. If you just look at all right, who in the secondary is a first-round draft pick? You've got two clear ones in Caleb Downs and Denzel Burke. Potentially IGB, a lot of people think. Jermaine Matthews, he's definitely got first-round potential. Jordan Hancock, I think I saw him mocked out to be like a fourth or fifth rounder. So just a ton of NFL talent. Aaron Scott at some point, definitely he has first-round potential. On the defensive line, Jack looks so dynamic right now. That burst, that strength. He's on a 6-game heater. Could he be a first rounder? I think so. He was projected to be like a second rounder. Tyleek is definitely a first rounder. JT, kind of right on the borderline, first or second rounder. Edric Houston's got the pedigree for sure. He probably won't play much this year. I don't know where Mitchell Melton will go, but Mitchell Melton is an NFL player, and he's going to show it this year. Kenyatta obviously has a crazy amount of potential. Which group do you think is going to be more dominant this year? I think they're both the best in the country at what they do. Tough to say who you would pick if you could only pick one, but cannot wait to watch this defense play again. That was a fun game. Question number 8. Nick McClarty, the punter from Australia, who is 6'7", who we watched kicking it out of stadiums and was named the starter, then apparently had a really poor week of practice because he got named the starter. And when we rolled out Saturday, it was the other Aussie punter who came out and was kicking the ball. That must be a pretty bad week of practice. Not often you see someone name the starter and then not start. When this guy gets a hold of it, apparently it goes a mile, and I really wanted to see it. But when he mishits it, and he mishits it often, you're in trouble. So you're going to go with the more consistent guy. I get it. But hoping that this dude earns his spot, because with the focus on special teams, and we've heard, the last couple of days in the press conferences, they've talked about it a lot. Chris and I talked about it yesterday, just how wild it is that Ryan Day all of a sudden is Mr. Special Teams guy. Not running the offense. What am I going to do? All right, here's an area that needs some help. And now he's just all about it, which is just weird because he's really taken a pass on that being part of the game plan or really even having a competent special teams unit for his entire tenure. So I absolutely love it. I think it's beautiful. I would also love to see the 6'7" Australian punting behemoth in there. So hopefully He gets it together. And you know what it's like to punt, man. When you hit a perfect punt and that ball just, it's almost like when you hit a baseball with a wood bat and it's just so smooth. And a punt, kind of the same way when you hit it perfectly. And then when you don't, and it goes off the side of your foot, it's a bad deal. And the Australian punter, the big one, McClarty, he seems to be having some issues with that. Number 9, freshman watch. Now, JJ, obviously the freshman of the year for these Buckeyes. I don't think anybody could possibly compete with him. He's going to be the freshman of the year around the country. Other freshmen who had really good games. James Peoples had 6 carries for 30 yards and a touchdown. Edric Houston had 11 snaps, 2 passes defended. And preseason superstar safety Jalen McClain came in. He got to make a tackle. So good for him. Those guys are all going to be studs. Do we get to see Mylan Graham maybe this week? Maybe Julian Sand? Possibly. But Jimmy Peoples and Edric Houston, we always knew that those 3, along with JJ, were going to be the biggest contributors, but really would like to see Mylan Graham get in there as well. We have got a plethora of decent games this week, just 1 or 2 really, really fun games around the world of college football. So let's go over that slate of games. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Columbus Apparel, and you can check out a full line of Juckonbucks apparel at columbusapparelco.com if that's something you're interested in. But more importantly, if you missed my show yesterday, they are doing something really special for Johnny Hockey, and I want to show you. So Johnny Hockey's brother Matthew's wife is pregnant, and they have teamed up, Columbus Apparel Co., with The Artillery, which is a podcast about the Blue Jackets, and they have made these shirts, cases upon cases of these shirts, which they are selling at columbusapparelco.com, and 100% of that money goes to the wife of Matthew, and she is pregnant with a son named Trip. So they're trying to help them out, and I think that's awesome. So if you like hockey, or if you have a friend that likes hockey, or if you just, obviously, if you just want to help, you can do that at columbusapparelco.com, and I am proud to be sponsored by a company like that. So thank you to them, and I appreciate you guys. I know some of you have ordered those already, and thank you to you. All right, so tomorrow we will do some a little more in depth. I'm going to pick about 5 or 6 of these games and go a little bit more in depth, but I do want to go over the slate of games and what we've got in store this weekend to watch in our windows. And we'll start with the 12 o'clock window, which is the game of the week as Texas heads into Michigan, and we'll talk more about that puppy tomorrow, obviously. In addition to that, we've got another pretty decent game in the 12 o'clock window with Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy hosting Arkansas, which Arkansas is an incredibly interesting team this year. Again, we'll get more into that tomorrow, but Oklahoma State, a 7.5-point favorite. Texas, a 7.5-point favorite. Both those games pretty interesting. And in addition to that, you've got a ranked Georgia Tech team now at number 23 in the country heading into the Carrier Dome, which is no longer the Carrier Dome, but I'll always call it that, to take on the Syracuse Orangemen, who are no longer the Syracuse Orangemen, but I'll always call them the Orangemen. They're just the Orange now. And Georgia Tech, Syracuse is all of a sudden a very exciting matchup. Kyle McCord, when we went through his schedule this year at Syracuse, it was looking like a real easy, like Georgia Tech, that was a check. That was a win. Maybe not so much this time, as Georgia Tech comes in the favorite, 2.5 points. So 3 pretty interesting games on at noon. You've also got Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, which is, Pitt, Cincinnati, usually a pretty interesting game. A couple of teams that dislike each other. At 3:30, Utah hosts Baylor. Utah is -15, and I know that's not an incredibly exciting game for a lot of folks, but Cam Rising is back at Utah. And again, we'll talk a little more about this tomorrow, but I love Cam Rising. You also got the Cy-Hawk Trophy game, Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa is a 3-point favorite. That game's from Kinnick. That is also in the 3:30 window. And Kentucky welcome South Carolina. Kentucky -10. The Kentucky Buckeyes will take on the South Carolina Gamecocks, and we will be rooting for the Kentucky Buckeyes, who are full of Ohio players, because that is how Mark Stoops and Vince Morrow have gone about building their roster, the Mark D'Antonio blueprint that we saw him use to win big at Michigan State. Take the next best players in Ohio that Ohio State doesn't get. Also in the 3:30 time slot, in a game that is now looking a little more interesting to me, Michigan State heads into Maryland. Maryland, an 8.5-point favorite. I am kind of looking forward to that game as well. And moving along, we have got Alabama. Alabama, a 30.5-point favorite to South Florida. And this is interesting to me because this is the team last year that Jaden, I don't know what it is about the Jalens and the Jadens. That we have so many of them in college football that I always mix that one up. Milroe was benched last year against South Florida. If you remember, Alabama was really struggling at halftime against South Florida last year. And this was the game he was benched. Might have been just that game. Might have been a game and a half. But he did get benched, and now he is right up there with your Heisman favorites. 7 o'clock, obviously. We've got our game at the 7:30 time slot at the same time as Tennessee and NC State. Tennessee heads into NC State is technically the home game, but it's being played in Charlotte, not in Raleigh. So Tennessee, 8.5-point favorite. Nico Iamaleava looked really, really good in his first start against a garbage Chattanooga team. But regardless, he looked really good. And I'm looking forward to watching him play. Wish it wasn't during our time slot because I really wanted to key in on that game. And during the Buckeyes game, I try as little as possible to do the split screen. I just want to focus on the Buckeyes. And especially this year, I'm like taking notes for the post-game show, which of course we will have again after the game. Doesn't matter how late it is, we're going to go. Also in the late time slot, we have got Clemson taking on App State. They welcome in App State. They're number 25 in the poll. Clemson, that is. Clemson's 25. Yeah, pretty wild, right? And App State comes in. Clemson only a 16.5-point favorite. After the loss they just suffered, this could be a get-right game, or this could be a it-all-falls-apart game. App State has some firepower. Going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. And then we head into the late window, and we've got that team out west, our buddies. That team out west, number 13, the USC Trojans, the Big Ten representative that whooped on LSU, 28.5-point favorites to Utah State as they welcome into the Coliseum, which is home of that team out west. And then Oregon takes on Boise State. Oregon, the number 7 team in the country now. They took a tumble in the polls after getting not such a great performance against Idaho. We'll go more into this game preview tomorrow. Oregon only a 19.5-point favorite. Boise State, not what they once were as far as the team, down in that group of 5 that is really super dominant, but they got a pretty good squad. So definitely one we'll be keeping an eye on, and they pretty much got their own time slot at 10 p.m. so long as you have the Peacock network to watch them. Obnoxious, but this is on Peacock, Oregon and Boise State. So I hope that you have that. If you don't, I think it's like $5 a month if you want to spend the $5 to watch that game. And then you can cancel it right away after that. So that is our slate of games this week. Tomorrow, we'll go into those a little more depth, including the point spread, and a pick that I will take as well. So that's that with that. I forgot the second biggest game of the week, also happening during our Buckeyes time slot at 7:30. We've got Nebraska and Colorado, and this is an old school rivalry. Nebraska and Colorado fans do not like each other. When I say that, I mean like real Colorado fans who live in Colorado. There is, there's a big inferiority complex that they have with Nebraska, and they feel they can get them this year. They got them last year. This should be a real fun one, and this is at 7:30. And again, another one we will get into a little bit more tomorrow. The line on that is Nebraska -7.5. And that's an interesting line. I think I'm leaning towards Colorado in the points, but I do believe Nebraska is going to win the game. But again, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Going to be an electric environment. Story caught my eye yesterday. There is a whiteout that has been scheduled at Western Kentucky for quite some time. Western Kentucky is hosting Eastern Kentucky. Western Kentucky instructed their fans, you wear all white. They're obviously going to wear their white uniforms. And this whiteout obviously been planned for months. They've been telling them, sending out the social media alerts, everybody wear white. We're really going to blow it out for this rivalry game. And they're no longer going to be wearing white uniforms at Western Kentucky because in a clear move of gamesmanship, Eastern Kentucky, their opponent, has decided that they will exercise their right as the away team to wear white. What? Guys, I've never heard of this in my life. Did anybody know that there was a rule that the away team had the right to wear white? That's a rule, apparently. The away team can exercise their right to wear white. I always thought that the home team got to decide whether they wore their colors or their whites. Usually they want to wear their colors. There are some teams who prefer to wear their white. We see LSU a lot of times at home wear their whites. But the majority of teams wear their color at home. I don't understand why the away team would have a right to wear white. I no idea, but apparently James Franklin doesn't even attempt to wear his Penn State whites at their whiteouts because they would never be allowed, as the opposing teams would never let them. They would exercise their right to wear white to spoil it for Penn State. You can also see that there might be some advantages to wearing your colored uniforms in that setting, that whiteout setting at Penn State. The contrast of the blue jerseys with the whiteout, it might be a little tougher if they were wearing white, to be honest. But my question to you guys, did you know about this rule that the away team has a right to wear white? Never heard of it in my life. But I absolutely love this, man. This is college football at its best. Western Kentucky puts out their public statement saying that they would not be wearing their whites because of what Eastern Kentucky did. They informed them just Tuesday that they're exercising their right. And the Eastern Kentucky coach tweeted out a song by a country music guy who I don't know who he is or what his song is, but the title of the song or the refrain of the song is lies, lies, lies. So the Eastern Kentucky coach is saying Western Kentucky's coach is lying, that he did not exercise his right to wear white. And the Western Kentucky guy is saying, look, we'd be wearing white if it weren't for him. Just a big, awesome college football to do about nothing. And I love it. And it's as if things hadn't gotten bad enough for Florida coach Billy Napier. This dude came out and stuck his foot in his mouth again. Billy Napier had a press conference, and he was talking about the criticism he's hearing. He said,
we have to execute better. And if we can focus on those things and not necessarily what some guy in his basement saying in, rural Central Florida on social media, then we got a chance to get better, right? So I think that's the key,
Well, a lot of his fans are from rural Central Florida, and they obviously did not like this comment. When Billy found out, people were pissed. He went on and said, it was a terrible choice of words. Obviously, I didn't explain myself the way I should have there. I want to make it clear that was not my intention there. The other day, when I was recapping the Miami and Florida game, I don't like to call people names, but I said, this guy's a bonehead. And it's clear as day, man. Every time you hear him talk, if you or I were the AD in the interview with Sunbelt Billy, and that's another nickname he goes by. He doesn't go by it. People call him Sunbelt Billy because he comes from the Sunbelt. But the dude's just a bonehead, man. Like, I almost feel bad for him. He's just in way over his head as the football coach of an SEC program with a couple of national championships. It's comical at this point. This guy's got to go. He's got to go fast, or they're going to lose a large chunk of the fan base, and it's going to be a disaster. It already is a disaster. But if you there's been talk about letting him stay another year. I don't even think he should stay through this year. Get him the hell out of there, man. It does potentially open up something for us, though. Remember, Vernell Brown committed to them. If this dude leaves, like, I mean, they're in turmoil now, and he might get fired. I'd be working Vernell Brown right now hard, man. This doesn't look good. This doesn't look promising. He has no idea what kind of offense is coming in there to Florida after Sunbelt Billy leaves, or Bonehead Billy, whatever you want to call him. Got to go get that dude. Vernell Brown's awesome, reasonable kid. He's not Jamie French, by the way. Did you see Jamie French at his what do you call it when he announced that he was going to Texas? I got to pull you guys up this picture of Jamie French. Hold on a sec. All right, man. You see the first chain is a hook'em chain. I can't really see the bottom of the second, but this dude's just not a mecca. He's not. He doesn't fit. He never did. He likes the Lambos. He likes the flash. He's all Texas. He's all Texas. He's all Miami. He can be the nicest kid in the world, but he's just different than Heartline's dudes. He just is. Anyway, enough about that. I get it. I'm old. I know. So Ryan Day gave a little bit of a press conference yesterday. They called these ones the lightning rounds, and these are the ones where they sit at the table in the Woody, and they get maybe 5 minutes to ask them a couple questions. And Ryan Day was asked, what can the defense improve on? And he gave a very Sharon Moore answer. Everything. They can improve on everything. I guess you can blame the question as much as the answer. But on Gabe Powers and his pick six, he said he needs to be a contributor for us. We need to play as many guys as possible. Players like that can make a difference. Hopefully that can springboard him, moving him forward. So Ryan Day just said last night, we need to play as many guys as possible. And he said earlier that he has changed, maybe just about 3 weeks ago, changed his philosophy. And when it comes to playing players and playing depth, it's clear with that statement right there, we need to play as many guys as possible. That he really has changed his philosophy. It's just different. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But it's basically like you're coming out like this is the opposite of how we've known you, and just nonchalantly saying things like we need to play as many players as possible. Now, he didn't specifically say that was to this game or early in the season against the Cupcakes or in a blowout, but I think it's awesome. And we're going to continue to see, and we saw so many players play last week. We're going to see that again this week. And I love it. Sonny Styles filling in at Mike. Ryan Day said he's a very serious young man and very mature. Coming in early, he matured even quicker than we probably thought. On Arvell Reese, he said there's some things we're still working through, but he plays hard. He goes really hard. We can work with guys like that. He gives the great effort physically, and we can continue to build on that. And he is going to play a lot of football for us. And finally, about Brandon Innis, he said he's going to be a big part of our offense this season. We're just getting going with him. The great receivers we've had have been very involved in special teams, and we're going to find a way to get the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker. He also called him contagious and said guys like to be around him, which you can plainly see if you've ever listened to him talk. Great personality, just a great dude. And I think he is an incredible leader on this team. They voted him to the leadership council after being there for less than a year, which is just wild. So he's an awesome dude. And he spoke too. BI, he said, in terms of, do you think, they asked him about the punt returns first. Do you think that teams will stop punting to you? And he said, yeah, I definitely think they will. I think Akron already was trying to.
Do you think teams are going to stop punting the ball to you?
Yeah.
So good in the first round?
Yeah, I definitely think they will. I think Akron was actually doing that after the first or second return. They kept kicking away from me, but I had to go get the ball.
He also said specials are a big focus this season, and Coach Day is very involved. We got another juicy quote from the Naeem Offord camp. So Naeem Offord's dad this time. Naeem Offord, 5-star cornerback, second-ranked cornerback in the country, second-ranked cornerback in the Ohio State class of 2025, because, of course, you've got Devin Sanchez. But yesterday, Chris and I talked about Naeem Offord, and I read a quote from Naeem Offord that sounded very wishy-washy that came out from last weekend. And this was the first time we've heard Naeem Offord sound wishy-washy. But I had been very adamant since about a month after he committed, based on a conversation that I had with someone close to him. And someone close to him just came out and gave a conflicting quote. And here is the quote that gentleman said. It's a 3-horse race at the last minute. None of them are touching Tim Walton. I like all 3 staffs. They're pretty cool. We'll see how the first half of the college season plays out. Look at it and see what's what. He loves Charles. He is Naeem. This is his father talking. He loves Charles Kelly, the safety coach at Auburn. Built a great relationship at Auburn over the past few years. He took a couple of his teammates this past weekend to Auburn. He's looking at the first half of the college season. I told him, don't rush. Take this time, see how everything plays out. So the 3 horses he's talking about are obviously Ohio State, Auburn, and Oregon. And what's good for the Buckeyes is he did say nobody's touching Tim Walton. And that's apparent. And I compared the relationship that Naeem had with Tim Walton to Eli and TJ Alford with James Laurinaitis. They just really, really look up to him. Can that win the day? Money isn't winning the day here. The Buckeyes are not they're not even matching offers right now when it comes to Naeem. So this is going to have to rely on Walt winning the day. Why is it a 3-horse race when he's already committed? This is the kind of stuff I don't get, man. Like, you commit to a program and then it's supposed to be like, we're not supposed to notice or say anything when you're taking visits. And then when someone says something like his commitment is open, which my buddy JR did, but he was really just repeating what was said on a podcast. Like, guys, take a listen to this. He got absolutely jumped on and he was a pariah for a couple of days. Offord's mom came in and was bagging on him. Everybody else jumped on him, Buckeye fans, calling him a moron. Now, he just heard from his father say this is a 3-horse race. Okay. So that clearly means he's open, right? He's not 100% committed. He's open because it's a 3-horse race. So I just get irritated with the double standard. If you question these guys when they're committed and they're going to visit somewhere else, then you're somehow like a bad guy. But now it comes out, oh, it is a 3-horse race 3 months later. So get out of here, man. I just don't like double standards and nonsense. The point is, he's committed to Ohio State. He still might end up in the class. What are the odds? Chris puts it at 70% that he remains in the class. I'm now at about 50-50. What I don't want to happen is what I think is going to happen. And that is he's holding out and waiting until the season plays out to make his decision. And when you do that, I understand you got to do what's best for you as a player, as a family. You are making it more difficult on Ohio State should you decide to flip out of the class because you are limiting the time that they have to try to find a replacement for you. So if he ends up flipping out of the class after making a quick kind of surprising commitment to Ohio State, kid from the South, from Alabama, makes a surprising commitment to Ohio State quick. Been visiting other places, been visiting Oregon, Alabama, and Auburn more than he's been on your campus for the duration of time he's been committed, and then flips at the very end of the cycle, which is a real possibility here, and you didn't get anybody to cover your butt, I think that's a real fail on Ohio State, not on the kid. I mean, it's a fail on him, right? Whatever. He's got to do what's best for him. But this has had flip written all over it the whole time, just from what we know of recruiting. And you need to have a third cornerback in this class right now. You can't wait on this guy's decision to then go try to flip a big name, because the truth is you could not get a big name with him in the class. This was one of the main reasons Dorian Brew was never going to be in this class. He was never going to come in a class with Devin Sanchez and Naeem Offord. He's immediately the 3-man. You could say, well, you might think, why do you got to be the 3-man? Well, he's just now starting at playing cornerback. Like he's got a ton of skill, Dorian Brew, but these guys are way ahead of him. And honestly, they have better bodies to be corners. They're just way ahead of him. So he was never going to do that. If Offord is out of the class, does it open the door for Dorian Brew, a guy who you almost had committed 2 separate times? I think so, but you're certainly going to need some time to work on him. What about Brandon Finney? Brandon Finney, who they didn't go hard after, from Maryland, who also committed to Oregon. He's a top 10 cornerback in the country as well. So if Naeem flips out of this class, can you get one of those two? They're definitely trying to work on a third one right now, and they have been trying to work on getting a third corner in the class. I don't think they have anybody in mind. Definitely not one that I've heard about. So I'm sorry, guys. And you can probably hear that pounding. I'm getting the floors redone upstairs. Anyway, that is the saga of Naeem Offord that continues to go on. And every time I go through this, I just like to give a special shout out to Devin Sanchez and the Sanchez family for understanding the meaning of a commitment and not making anybody go through this nonsense, coaching staff, fans, anybody, and making your decision before you make a commitment, because, well, that's kind of how life and logic works, right? That's just how things work. Anyway, tomorrow we will go over the slate of games in a little more detail. We will make some picks and we will set up the weekend and the weekend show. So I will talk to you guys then. Juckonbucks out.